Hey, it's Movie Analysis, and I'm back. So for once, I'm actually going to say something positive about what I'm reviewing. It's pretty damn easy to do so when I'm reviewing Clone Wars, which is probably the best TV show in existence. But I mean, at least I'm saying something positive. I usually do negative reviews because it's more fun to do the negative reviews. Needless to say, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this video, not just for Clone Wars, but for other Star Wars content, considering that Clone Wars is such an integral part to the story of Star Wars. So right off the bat, I've got to say that the older I get, the more I learn about the show. Its complex themes, its damn good execution of character development, and how it often feels like a social commentary. For example, the arc where Ahsoka gets framed for the temple bombing, it really nuances the Jedi. When I first got into Star Wars, I was 10, and I really thought of it as black and white, like, Jedi good, Sith bad. I'm now 17, and because of all this nuance, I can tell they're both assholes. I mean, the Sith are very scummy overall, but they're less hypocritical than the Jedi. So this arc with Ahsoka actually shines a light on how the Jedi got so politically involved that they changed so much that they also have become the very thing they swore to destroy. I mean, they literally picked kissing the Senate's ass over standing with Ahsoka. And Barriss Offee, screw her, but she was right in her confession. The Jedi were once peacekeepers, but now they're leading the goddamn war effort. And call me crazy, but that's not peacekeeping. This whole theme of the Jedi changing because of political involvement, it's not just in this arc. In the episode Brain Invaders, Ahsoka says this to Barriss.
Anakin? You might find some of his thoughts on the future, a bit radical. I'm not even sure how peacetime will agree with him.
Even freaking Pong Krell, the asshole who has an entire subreddit dedicated to people hating him, and rightfully so, he admitted that he's no longer naive enough to be a Jedi.
But you're a Jedi. How could you?
A Jedi? I am no longer naive enough to be a Jedi. A new power is rising. I've foreseen it. The Jedi are going to lose this war, and the Republic will be ripped apart from the inside.
Tales of the Jedi also does a really good job in nuancing Dooku, and I think that's probably the first time that Star Wars ever even tried nuancing Dooku, because he was very much a static character throughout Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, and Clone Wars. He's just that one evil guy that's kind of classy. So I've said on this channel before that the Jedi had so much involvement in Anakin's fall to the dark side. The Clone Wars really adds more context to how they caused his fall, especially with the Ahsoka arrested arc, and pretty much every single episode where Anakin goes into battle and puts in 100% and demonstrates how he's one of the most important assets for the Jedi, yet they take him for granted. I mean, this guy is smart and skilled enough to save his friends without even screwing up the mission, as seen in so many of these episodes. I'm not gonna bother listing them because there's so many. Pretty much every other episode, if I'm being honest. At the end of the day, I don't really blame Anakin for being desperate enough to turn to the dark side. It reminds me a whole lot of Quiet Quitting, if I'm being honest, the recent trend. Anakin putting in 100% and the Jedi just, using him up like that. Honestly, at the end of the day, Padme was all he really had left, and then he accidentally killed Padme, so honestly, I just feel bad for Anakin now. So I really like it when media has nuanced heroes. Anakin is probably the best nuanced hero in my opinion, and he's really well executed. He's a good person, but he's got his flaws. He's conflicted between following the Jedi Code and giving into his emotional attachments, like his friends and Padme. He's got his internal battles as well. We also see Anakin commit a war crime every single episode, and it's always fun when the Imperial March plays every time he just straight up loses it. This is, again, favorite part of the show. I love this. We also have Captain Rex, who I don't really think is super nuanced. There was that one battle between following orders blindly or just deciding to disobey them if it means doing the right thing. This was, the main arc for that was the Umbara Arc. Also, screw Pong Krell. Hate that guy. So Ahsoka is a character that changes quite a lot through the series. Many fans were pretty annoyed with her near the beginning. I wasn't, honestly. I can definitely say that she did mature and grow up throughout the entire series. It makes a lot of sense because she was 14 at the start and then 17 or 18 by the end. She also wasn't perfect. She was a Padawan, which makes sense. She's still learning. And she had plenty of fails throughout the series. She was taken hostage by Cad Bane at the beginning of Season 2. On the Ryloth arc in Season 1, she had that huge mess up in battle when she lost so many of her pilots. Even Anakin had major screw-ups throughout the series. I feel like this is turning into me just jabbing Rey once again because they completely just ruined her character development. She didn't really have any, they made her a Mary Sue. Anyway, this is about Clone Wars, not Force Awakens. I need to not get into this again. Obi-Wan, pretty static character throughout just Star Wars in general, not just Clone Wars. You could say there's definitely he's a little bit of a conflicted character because of stuff going on, but he hasn't really changed too much. He's part of the main cast for sure. He's usually the sensible one. He's basically just trying to keep Anakin from doing something really stupid. So he reflects the quality of being a good friend. He's also conflicted by the Jedi Order a little bit. Clone Wars doesn't really go into it a whole lot. He obviously knows about Anakin and Padme. He doesn't say anything because he wants to keep him happy. This is actually backed up by, it was either a deleted scene or it was like a draft of the Revenge of the Sith script, where Obi-Wan just tells Padme, hey, I've known about this for a while, but I've kept my mouth shut because I want to keep him happy. I'm also pretty sure that he and Satine, it's pretty obvious they were an item at some point. I'm sure he had a kid with her, though. This is like a conspiracy theory going on in r/prequel memes, because Satine's nephew, Corky, looks really, really similar to Obi-Wan. So I watched this show for the first time when I was 10, and it really taught me several really important lessons, and I live by all of them on a daily basis. Stand up for your friends and loved ones, and this is something that Anakin demonstrates pretty much every episode he's in. If you try hard enough and utilize problem-solving skills, you don't have to choose between between two separate decisions. So this is like Anakin whenever he's stuck between the mission and saving his friends. The Blue Shadow Virus arc, that's like a main one for that. I mean, in the words of Chris Pine's Captain Kirk, I don't believe in no-win scenarios. This is something that Anakin lives by. Blindly following a 30 is not a good thing, and you have to think for yourself and do the right thing. Don't let yourself get screwed over because someone in a position of power said so. This is referring to the Umbara Arc, and Anakin pretty much just disobeying orders all the time. Having all these nuanced characters taught me that you can't see the world in black and white. None of us are complete angels. I mean, sure, you can be a great person, but you still have flaws. And of course, the text that you see at the beginning of every Clone Wars episode. There are just so many things to take away from this show that if I listed them all, I would be stuck recording this segment for a very long time. So, Star Wars politics, that's pretty interesting. It's not super realistic because I don't think it's as much of a clown show as politics is in the real world. This is referring to, like, politics everywhere, not just the US. So, Star Wars politics, it's mostly centered on the war. There are a couple of episodes that do, like, talk about domestic policies. For example, Season 3, Episode 11, Pursuit of Peace. It's where Padme addresses the Senate, basically just saying that we're fighting this war and telling our civilians that we're here to protect them, but we're so focused on fighting this war that we're neglecting the welfare of our civilians. Several arcs, they involve around planets needing aid, and then the Separatists have a blockade on them, so then our heroes basically need to get past the blockade and deliver the aid. Season 1, Episode 8, that's one where Senator Anaconda Farr is forced to temporarily join the Separatists because he wasn't able to get aid from the Republic until after he turned in Gunray. There are also a shit ton of war crimes that take place in this series. I mean, I don't really think they're super political, but they're war crimes. I do feel like I need to address this. Anakin's responsible for most of them. He doesn't really harm innocents or anything, so it's pretty excusable. I mean, he only really harms innocents when he's actually Vader. We also have no idea if Star Wars has a Geneva Convention or not, so, like, bold of you to assume that he'd actually get tried for it. Usually it is actually the Separatists that harm the innocents and involve them whenever they're committing war crimes, so yeah, honestly, I'm more on the Republic side if I'm being honest. There's also a whole goddamn Wikipedia page about the Loyalist Committee. This committee consists of Padme, Bail Organa, Orn Free Taa, Jar Jar Binks, and Ask Ok, I believe. I don't remember that character in Clone Wars at all. This is just what the Wikipedia page says. So it's no surprise that Amidala, Organa, and Binks were pretty close in the Senate, and this Wikipedia page, it basically just goes over how this group was technically formed by Palpatine, but later they felt that Palpatine was taking advantage of the war by trying to gain power because of it. This is all confirmed by the ending of Revenge of the Sith, because Padme gives this line when Palpatine announces the creation of the Galactic Empire.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Organa also heavily disapproved of the Empire. We saw that in Kenobi, he knew where Obi-Wan was, he didn't sell him out. He also was Yoda's getaway driver when he tried to kill Palpatine, so he's like an accessory or something. It is really surprising that Padme and Orn Free Taa were actually on the committee together, because I always felt that he was like more on the corrupt side and didn't really care about the people that he's supposed to represent. Padme, on the other hand, I mean, she's like anti-war, like cares about domestic policy, like she actually cares about the people she's representing. Let's just say that if these two people were in Congress, they would be on, they for sure would be in opposite political parties. Okay, so here are just some quick praises that I have for the show. They weren't long enough to have like their own section, but I still need to say them. So, as for actors, they picked the best possible actors for this. Matt Lanter does Anakin so much justice because he makes Anakin sound so passionate, pissed off, emotional, and snarky. He really gave so much life to the character. Ashley Eckstein also really captures Ahsoka's like innocence and youth, and like we can clearly tell over the course of the show that like Ahsoka, she's growing up, she's maturing. D. Bradley Baker gave so much humanity to the clones, arguably I think more than Tamora Morrison, although I can't really blame Morrison too much because the clones weren't really given much screen time in the prequels, if I'm being honest. James Arnold Taylor, he sounds exactly like Ewan McGregor, and again, he does a really good job at capturing Obi-Wan's maturity, experience, and of course snarkiness, because he is probably the most savage one in the group. Sam Witwer was absolutely iconic with the Sun and Darth Maul. I remember that I was genuinely terrified of the Sun when I first watched the Mortis Arc, and in the episode where Savage Opress finds Maul after 10 plus years, Witwer does such a good job at conveying how damaged and crazy Maul was since The Phantom Menace. The animation improved so much over the course of the show, but even at the very beginning, it's still really pleasant to look at. I really hate animation that's like super oversaturated, so I really like that from a saturation standpoint, it was pretty neutral. Even the episodes that, like even the worst episodes of this series, they're honestly decent. For example, Season 2, Episode 8, it honestly feels like a filler episode, but it's still fun to watch, and there's at least some conflict going on. The Martez Sisters arc from Season 7, it was heavily criticized, and rightfully so, if I'm being honest, considering that there were other arcs that we could have had. But it still did a pretty good job for Ahsoka's character development. It was showing how she was very conflicted because she had no idea how to deal with life when she wasn't a Jedi, and she had a difficulty adjusting. That being said, though, there were other like canceled Clone Wars episodes before the show was back. I honestly think Season 7 could have actually been longer so that we could have actually fit more of those arcs in there. I do hope that those episodes actually get released as maybe like Season 2 of Tales of the Jedi or something, because honestly, like especially like the arc where Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're reminiscing about Ahsoka, like that one would be great if we got that as part of Tales of the Jedi. Another thing is that this show is about war, but it doesn't go fully dark because it has several comic relief characters. Hondo is always fun, and the dynamic between Anakin, the 501st, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan, it's funny, it's pure entertainment. Also, Anakin's war crimes, they're pure entertainment as well. The series has several important clone troopers, many of which didn't make it to the end, sadly, and it's really heartbreaking. Obviously, we got Captain Rex, who I already went over because he's part of the main cast. First, we have Five. So he's one of the best clones in the series. He's really important in the Umbara Arc. That's like one of his that's like the arc for him. He's really important in getting Rex to realize that he can't just blindly follow questionable orders. He first appears in Season 1, Episode 5, Rookies, and he's murdered by that jackass Commander Fox in Season 6, Episode 4, Orders. Initially, he was just some random clone, but by the end, his death was just sad. And then we have 99. So this guy is worshipped by r/prequel memes, rightfully so. He's the reason Domino Squad was able to graduate, and probably the main reason they actually, made it to the Rishi outpost, and he saved the day in Season 3, Episode 2, Arc Troopers. He's a very wholesome character. Now we got Echo. So I'm really glad he was brought back in Season 7 and is now part of the Bad Batch. He really went from being that clueless guy that just repeated orders in, Season 3, Episode 1, to part of freaking Clone Wars 99. Now we got Commander Cody. Cody didn't have too many appearances, if I'm being honest. But it really makes, the fact that Clone Wars has Commander Cody, it does make Order 66 more bone-chilling, because this dude was loyal AF to the Jedi. Okay, so right here, I just wanted to, let's just take a moment to just acknowledge and just honor Jesse, Fives, Hardcase, 99, Vaughn, Heavy, Echo, the Bad Batch, and several more that I'm probably missing. These were some of the GOATs. So this was the first arc in the entire show. It established Anakin's hypocritical tendencies when he gets onto Ahsoka for doing basically the same stuff he does throughout the series, like not giving a shit about orders. It also established Anakin risking the mission to save his friends, as seen in Destroy Malevolence, and how much of a risk-taker Anakin really is, as the Balmoral run was a really risky maneuver. Overall, this is a pretty solid arc. So this arc has a really weird structure. Domino Squad is first introduced in Season 1, Episode 5, Rookies, where Fives, Echo, Heavy, Droidbait, and Cut Up are having to defend the Rishi Station as, they're rookies, but they have the help of Captain Rex and Commander Cody. By the end, Heavy goes out like a badass with total dignity. Droidbait and Cut Up die before then. And Fives and Echo, they're all that remain, and they don't reappear until Season 3, Episode 1, Clone Cadets, which is a prequel to Rookies where the Domino Squad is in training. The Domino Squad is a shitty team, and it's also 99's first of 2 appearances. It's a pretty simple plot, the Domino Squad, they learn to work together in his problem-solving skills, mostly because 99 encourages Heavy to take charge. The following episode, Arc Troopers, takes place after Rookies, where Echo and Fives reunite with 99. So the Clankas attack Tipoca City, Camino, and it ends with Fives and Echoes getting the young clones to help out, and 99 is like their supply guy, and he gets killed in action. The episode ends with Fives and Echo getting promoted to Arc Trooper. This arc was pretty cool. It did a good job of not only teaching the lesson of teamwork and problem-solving skills, but it showed the effects of war, considering that by the end, Domino Squad only had 2 left, and they had to deal with a lot of death. Also, just rest in peace to 99. So this arc really shows how Anakin has a strict no man left behind policy, and how he uses problem-solving skills for that. Basically, Anakin doesn't believe in no-win scenarios since he doesn't even hesitate to go to Iego, a planet that's notorious for being impossible to leave. And that's all to get a cure for the virus, as Ahsoka, Padme, Rex, and other members of the 501st are infected and stuck in the underground bunker. It also gives us more information on Padme, as she sees the clones as people and not war machines, and she just wants the war to end because it's causing people, including the clones, to just suffer and lose their lives in vain. This one's really bone-chilling, and it's really just there to remind us that, hey, Anakin seems great right now, but it ain't gonna last. This arc really shines a light on Anakin's inner battles, and it's basically just evidence that he needs therapy and probably has PTSD. In Season 3, Episode 15, Overlords, Anakin gets a nightmare of his mom as he's still grieving over not being able to save her, how he didn't hesitate to wipe out an entire Tusken village, and of course, being conflicted with a secret marriage with Padme since he's under so much pressure to keep quiet about it. Season 3, Episode 17, Ghosts of Mortis, has Anakin seeing visions of his inevitable future as the most hated man in the galaxy, Darth Vader. He temporarily joins forces with the Son because he's determined to not let that happen, but eventually he loses memory of what the Son showed him, so he's back to being the Anakin Skywalker we all know and love. So Mortis, it symbolizes exactly what Anakin does over his life. He gets rid of the light side as the daughter dies in Season 3, Episode 16, Altar of Mortis, and then he gets rid of the dark side when the son gets killed in Ghosts of Mortis. Anakin did exactly this. He eliminated the Jedi, and then 23 years later, he destroyed the Sith. So this is the arc for Fives and Rex's character development. Basically, the clones are trying to capture Umbara, and Anakin has to leave by the end of the first episode of this arc, Season 4, Episode 7, Darkness on Umbara, and he's replaced by General Krell. So, Krell is probably the most hated character in this franchise, not because he's badly written, but because he's a jackass. My theory on this arc is that Rex probably briefed Anakin on what went on with Krell, probably over drinks, and then Anakin got pissed. All this, taking place, after they got out of Umbara. I mean, Anakin's a guy, he cares about his Legion, and his battle strategies reflect that. He also takes input from his soldier. Krell, on the other hand, has extremely high casualty strategies, and just like my god-awful, stupid, very bad, no good HOA, he seems to be on a power high. He tries to get Fives and Jesse executed. So overall, the most worthy Star Wars character to have a subreddit dedicated to hating him goes to Prawn Krell. There also was major character development for Dogma, who was literally never mentioned again in Star Wars. He also was, like, the Umbara Arc was the only appearance for Dogma. That's it. As for Rex and Fives, this entire arc, I was cheering them on. Again, this arc had one of the most important lessons from the entire show. Question authority and stick up for your team. This is easily one of my most watched arcs. So this arc is more for Anakin's character development, since it just shows how he's like really impacted by his past still, because he used to be a slave. So we see him pissed and like he's about to raise hell. In this arc, we really see how compassionate our main cast is, since they're constantly just outraged at this regime that's built on slavery, and they're just trying to help the victims whenever they can. So I feel like you can maybe make an argument that this arc is like social commentary that criticizes excessive capitalism, such as the US before the Civil War, since Ahsoka and Anakin had this exchange in Season 4, Episode 12, Slaves of the Republic.
How can a civilization this advanced still practice slavery?
It makes them wealthy and powerful at the expense of others. Before the Hutts bought my mother, she was sold in a market just like this.
This might be slightly political, although I do think that this line could actually apply to several corporations in the US present day, since many are notorious for having record profits, yet they're still paying employees like extremely low wages or requiring them to work crazy working hours. Of course, this is like 100% not the same as slavery, don't get me wrong. But what Anakin said, it could apply here as well. So this one is absolutely critical for Anakin's growing distrust of the Jedi Order, and it also just shows how goddamn stupid everyone except Anakin, Ahsoka, and Padme were in this whole situation. Anakin is notorious for being emotionally unstable. He has also handled loss in literally the worst way imaginable, because he murdered not just the men but the women and the children in the Tusken village after his mom died. So what the hell was Obi-Wan thinking when he decided to keep Anakin in the dark about his fake death? That he wouldn't go after Rako Hardeen and jeopardize the secret mission? I mean, come on, I love Obi-Wan, but that's just horrible, horrible judgment. So I'd like to start off by saying that Sam Witwer and Clancy Brown, they made Maul and Savage Opress absolutely badass. First of all, Maul with the spider legs is absolutely terrifying. It reminds me way too much of the tripods from Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds. And that movie scared the hell out of me. Second, Sam Witwer did such an amazing job in Season 4, Episode 21, Brothers, when Savage Opress and Maul meet.
No! you don't know. You don't know anything. Never.
He sounds really demonic, which is very reflective of Darth Maul's damaged mental state. And that demonic voice combined with the lighting, the set, and Maul's spider legs, it really made me feel uneasy and uncomfortable, which is exactly what you want when we're dealing with Darth Maul over here. Season 4, Episode 22, Revenge, Maul is back, and he's actually coherent. It's pretty cool to see Obi-Wan and Ventress fighting on the same side, and the banter between the two is great. For the first time since The Phantom Menace, we see Obi-Wan emotionally compromised, as Maul takes advantage of it here.
Your master, Qui-Gon Jinn. I gutted him while you stood helpless and watched. How did that make you feel, Obi-Wan?
By Season 5, Episode 1, Maul is getting confident as hell.
There is no need for dominance between us.
Always two there are, my brother. A master and an apprentice. And you are the apprentice.
Overall, this arc basically just opens up future appearances for Maul, and it establishes that this dude is unhinged and a scumbag, and he is one of the most badass Star Wars villains ever. Adding back Maul was a great decision, and casting Sam Witwer to play him was great. Well, this is Maul's next appearance, so basically it's about Death Watch overthrowing Satine and trying to get control of Mandalore. Before I say anything else, here's a clip from when I was writing the script. So, I'm consulting the wiki. I'm consulting like the Star Wars wiki a whole lot because I don't have time to watch every single one of these episodes. So I figured, what if ChatGPT can actually like just give me the summary just in less words? And here's why you can't do that. Because this episode, here's what the main red flag here. Maul does not die at all during Clone Wars. Pointed that out. So it kind of corrects itself, right? Darth Maul is not defeated by Pre Vizsla either. He's not imprisoned. the last thing you see in that episode is Maul sitting on the throne of Mandalore. So there we go. Just don't take ChatGPT super seriously, because this can happen. So Maul becomes the new ruler of Mandalore. Satine's arrested and later killed right in front of Obi-Wan, and we get such a badass ending to this because Obi-Wan's escaping with the help of Bo-Katan. There's the death of Savage Opress, and the Maul versus Sidious fight. It just adds so much to how much of a scumbag Sidious is. Considering that he's not gonna hesitate to trade out his appearances. I'm so sorry. There's first Maul, and then he was convincing Anakin to kill Dooku, and then later when Vader and Luke fought on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi, he taunted Luke to kill Vader and join him. This arc was just great. This is the arc where Anakin starts the drift from the Jedi. The only people that stood by her were Anakin, Plo Koon, Padme, and Obi-Wan. And Barriss is also completely right in her confession speech. I mean, it was screwed up to bomb the temple, but I mean, she's right. The episode also fueled my hatred for Mace Windu, this ketamine addict, and Turkin. I mean, especially when Windu said that this was actually Ahsoka's great trial in the scene where the Jedi were apologizing and welcoming her back into the Order. I mean, he's just completely evading any responsibility over here. I've already hated Windu for how badly he treated Anakin in the prequels, but this just rubs more salt on the wound. Of course, Ahsoka leaving, it was heartbreaking, but honestly, like, if I knew Ahsoka in real life, I would probably be encouraging her. Yeah, no, they don't deserve you. You gotta leave and do something for yourself. So this was one of the saddest clone deaths ever. This guy was loyal AF to the Republic. He acted in their best interest, and he paid the price. But I think it's really comforting to know that Commander Fox, the man that murdered him, also has an entire subreddit dedicating to hating him. So I just want to say good job, Reddit. It gets a bad rep sometimes, but the Star Wars side of Reddit, it's great. Except for that one unholy subreddit that I'm not gonna be naming right here. It ships Ahsoka and Anakin together. I mean, it's weird. It feels illegal. Anakin and Ahsoka, they're basically siblings. It's a bad subreddit. Don't go there. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So this is another arc that it just seems like it's written to tell us that, hey, it seems really great right now, but it's about to go to hell real soon. So Fives discovers the inhibitor chips, and he tries to do some research since Tup's chip failed, and it caused him to kill a Jedi. And Nala Se, so she also tries to gaslight him, saying that the chip is there to make sure that he isn't a total psychopath. Even Anakin doesn't believe him, and he thinks that Fives needs some, psychiatric help. The fact that the Jedi got so goddamn close to getting suspicious of the inhibitor chips, it's crazy, and it just goes to show you that Palpatine was smart as hell in this whole plan to turn the Republic into the Galactic Empire. Rest in peace, Fives. You were one of my favorite soldiers of the entire show. So in Season 2, Clovis was involved with the Separatists, and he nearly got Padme killed, which of course pissed off Anakin a whole lot, rightfully so. So he's back in Season 6, and this arc has Padme investigating the banks, and working with Clovis. So this arc, it really showed Anakin's dark tendencies, and how the marriage, combined with Anakin being a Jedi, it wasn't a good combination. It's like mixing... It's a bad combination. Pineapple on pizza, let's say that. It's not really that bad of a combination. Let's just say pineapple on pizza. Ranch on pizza, there we go. Anakin's marriage and the Jedi Order, it's as bad a combination as ranch on pizza. I'm sorry if you're watching this from the Midwest. I'm right, though. There was that one scene where Anakin kicks Clovis's ass when he tries to kiss Padme, and literally while Padme was saying no and trying to pull away. I mean, Anakin, okay, look, he was 100% justified here, since you should always beat the living shit out of someone who sexually assaults someone else. But outside of this incident, he seems possessive over Padme and lacks trust in her ability to stay safe, oh my god, I'm so sorry, in this investigation, even though she's put herself in danger multiple times.
The Chancellor has asked me to do this, Anakin.
But I'm asking you to say no. As your husband, I demand that you tell the Chancellor you are stepping down.
Demand? We've been over this before. I am not foolish enough to allow myself to be deceived twice, Anakin.
We see the death of Clovis, and we're actually exposed to a lot of the corruption going on both sides in the war. Here we are, the end of this legendary series. This was the best possible send-off we could have had for this show. Order 66 was just so goddamn emotional in the way that they portrayed it here, as we finally had to say goodbye to the 501st. Losing Jesse was really sad since he went from the hero who disobeyed orders with 5s in hard case during the Umbara Arc to being a prisoner of his inhibitor chip. And that ending scene with Vader seeing the crash site of the 501st and Ahsoka's lightsabers was probably the best. It was a very bittersweet, but it was also the best closing scene that we could have had. And of course, the show closes with a few final jabs towards the Jedi. We got an emotional reunion with Ahsoka and Anakin and the boys, and Ahsoka says this towards Obi-Wan, which really just shows why Ahsoka left and, Anakin having the growing distrust of the Jedi.
I understand that as usual you're playing politics. This is why the people have lost faith in the Jedi. I had too, until I was reminded of what the Order means to people who truly need us.
After years of an incomplete ending for this legendary series, I was just so happy to once again hear the voices of Matt Lancher, Ashley Eckstein, James Arnold Taylor, Sam Witwer, Catherine Tabor, and D. Bradley Baker. That being said, I really hope more of the deleted episodes, I hope that more of them get released as maybe season 2 of Tales of the Jedi or something. Thank you all so much for putting up with me talking for so long, and I will see you all in my next video.